Life is a journey that presents us with both challenges and opportunities. Along this journey, we often search for happiness, fulfillment, and peace, but the path to these goals is not always clear. However, ancient wisdom, particularly that of the Buddha, offers profound insights into the nature of life and how to transform our thinking for the better. The Buddha's teachings emphasize mindfulness, compassion, and the acceptance of impermanence. When we apply these principles in our daily lives, we begin to see the world through a new lens, one that fosters inner peace, joy, and clarity. This teaching will explore 7 essential life lessons that can change the way we think and live. These lessons are not just philosophical ideas. They are practical tools for personal transformation. 1. Embrace impermanence. Change is the only constant. One of the central teachings of the Buddha is the concept of impermanence, anicca. The Buddha observed that everything in life is transient, from our thoughts and emotions to our relationships and possessions. The world around us is constantly changing, and the only certainty in life is that change will happen. Understanding and embracing impermanence is the first step towards transforming your thinking. The nature of impermanence. Impermanence is not something to fear or resist, but something to accept and embrace. We often try to hold on to things, whether it's a moment of happiness, a relationship, or a material possession, hoping they will last forever. However, when these things inevitably change or fade away, we experience suffering, frustration, or loss. The Buddha teaches that attachment to things that are transient causes suffering. By recognizing the impermanence of life, we can shift our mindset from one of clinging and control to one of acceptance and equanimity. This shift allows us to live with greater freedom and peace. Practical application. Mindfulness of change. Begin by paying attention to the natural ebb and flow of life. Observe how everything around you is in a constant state of flux. This could be as simple as noticing the changing seasons or the ebb and flow of your own emotions. Letting go of attachment. Practice letting go of attachment to outcomes. Instead of holding on to expectations or desires for how things should be, allow yourself to experience life as it is in the present moment. Trust that change is natural and part of the unfolding of life. Reflection. How does the awareness of impermanence change the way you view your own life and experiences? Can you find peace in accepting that nothing lasts forever? 2. Practice non-attachment. Find freedom in letting go. The second lesson is related to the first but focuses more on the practice of non-attachment, anapanasati. Non-attachment does not mean indifference or renunciation of life. Rather, it means not clinging to things, people, or outcomes. When we are attached, we tie our happiness to external circumstances, and when those circumstances change, our happiness is threatened. The root of suffering. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root cause of suffering. Attachment arises from a desire to control or possess things, and this desire is rooted in fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, and fear of not being enough. When we become attached to an object, a person, or a specific outcome, we become dependent on it for our happiness. But this dependency can never bring true fulfillment, as everything in life is subject to change. Non-attachment is freedom. When we practice non-attachment, we are not withdrawing from life, but engaging with it fully without holding on too tightly. We can enjoy the beauty of life, the love of others, and the successes we achieve, but we don't allow these things to define our sense of self-worth. True freedom comes from the ability to experience life without clinging to it. Practical application. Observe your attachments. Take some time to reflect on your life and identify areas where you may be holding on to attachments. This could be a relationship, an object, or a certain idea about yourself. How do these attachments affect your peace of mind? Practice letting go. Each day, practice releasing one small attachment. It could be letting go of a negative thought, a judgment about someone, or an expectation for how things should turn out. Notice how this act of letting go creates space for peace and clarity. Reflection. How does letting go of attachments feel? Can you experience life more fully when you are not attached to a specific outcome or possession? 3. Cultivate compassion, the key to inner peace and connection. Compassion is at the heart of Buddhist practice. The Buddha taught that by cultivating compassion for ourselves and others, we can break through the barriers that separate us and experience a deep sense of connection and peace. What is compassion? Compassion is not just feeling sorry for someone else's suffering. It is the deep desire to alleviate suffering. It involves understanding the pain of others and taking action to help them, whether it's through words, actions, or simply being present. However, true compassion also starts with ourselves. We cannot offer compassion to others if we do not first cultivate compassion within. The power of compassion. When we approach others with compassion, we open our hearts and minds to them. This allows us to transcend the ego and experience unity with all beings. Compassion helps dissolve the boundaries of separation and promotes harmony and peace. When we offer kindness and understanding, we not only heal others but also ourselves. Practical application. Self-compassion. Start by practicing self-compassion. Be kind and patient with yourself, especially during difficult times. Instead of criticizing yourself for mistakes or shortcomings, offer yourself understanding and support. Compassion for others. Extend this compassion to others, especially those who are suffering or in need. Practice active listening and offer help when you can. Even small acts of kindness can make a big difference. Reflection. How does practicing compassion change the way you interact with others? Can you see the interconnectedness of all beings through the lens of compassion? 4. Understand the nature of suffering. Embrace the truth of life. One of the most profound teachings of the Buddha is the concept of suffering, dukkha. The Buddha did not shy away from the harsh reality of suffering. Instead, he sought to understand its nature, its causes, and how to transcend it. In Buddhist philosophy, suffering is not something to fear, but something to be understood and accepted. When we fully grasp the nature of suffering, we can transform our relationship with pain and experience greater peace. The 3 universal truths of suffering. The Buddha identified 3 main forms of suffering. The suffering of pain, dukkha dukkha, this refers to the physical and emotional pain we experience in life, such as illness, aging, and loss. The suffering of change, viparinama dukkha, this refers to the suffering we experience as a result of the impermanence of all things. Even our happiest moments are fleeting, and when things change, we may experience disappointment or sorrow. The suffering of conditioned existence, sankhara dukkha, this refers to the suffering inherent in the cycle of birth, aging, illness, and death, which all beings experience due to their conditioned existence in the world. Understanding suffering leads to freedom. By acknowledging that suffering is a natural part of life, we can begin to let go of the illusion that life should be free of pain. Suffering arises from our attachment to things and our desire for permanence in a world that is constantly changing. By understanding this, we can shift our thinking from seeking to avoid suffering to understanding it and using it as a path to liberation. Practical application. Mindfulness of suffering. Begin to observe suffering in your own life without judgment. When pain arises, whether physical or emotional, acknowledge it as part of the human experience. Do not run away from it, but examine it with curiosity and compassion. Understanding the cause of suffering. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from craving and attachment. Reflect on the ways in which your desires lead to suffering. Are there things you are attached to that cause you pain when they change or fade away? Reflection. How does your understanding of suffering change when you accept it as a part of life rather than something to avoid? Can you use suffering as a teacher, showing you where you might be clinging to attachments? 5. Cultivate mindfulness. Live fully in the present moment. Mindfulness, sati, is one of the most powerful tools for transforming our thinking and behavior. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness refers to the ability to remain fully present and aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It is the practice of observing ourselves without judgment or distraction, bringing our attention back to the present moment. The power of mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us break free from the automatic patterns of thought and behavior that often dictate our lives. We are constantly bombarded with distractions, whether it's external noise, digital devices, or the constant stream of thoughts in our minds. These distractions pull us away from the present moment and create a sense of disconnection. Through mindfulness, we can return to the present, fully experiencing each moment as it is. The Buddha taught that mindfulness is not only about meditation, but about integrating awareness into all aspects of life. Whether we are eating, walking, or working, mindfulness helps us stay grounded and aware. Practical application. Breathing meditation. One simple way to cultivate mindfulness is through mindful breathing. Take a few minutes each day to sit quietly and focus on your breath. Pay attention to the sensation of the breath as it enters and leaves your body. When your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the breath without judgment. Mindful observation. Practice mindfulness in everyday activities. Whether you are washing dishes, walking in nature, or having a conversation, bring your full attention to the task at hand. Notice the details of your surroundings, your feelings, and your thoughts. Reflection. How does mindfulness affect the way you experience the present moment? Can you bring mindfulness into your interactions with others and your daily routines? 6. Practice right action. Live with integrity and ethical conduct. The Buddha's teachings emphasize the importance of right action, sammakamanta, as part of the Eightfold Path, which is the way to end suffering and achieve enlightenment. Right action refers to acting in ways that are ethical, moral, and compassionate. It involves making choices that align with our higher values and contribute to the well-being of others and ourselves. The ethics of right action. Right action is grounded in the principle of non-harming, ahimsa. The Buddha taught that we should avoid actions that cause harm to others, such as lying, stealing, or engaging in violence. Instead, we should cultivate actions that promote kindness, honesty, and generosity. By acting with integrity, we create harmony in our lives and in our communities. The role of karma. In Buddhism, the law of karma teaches that every action has consequences. When we act with kindness and integrity, we create positive karma that leads to greater peace and happiness. Conversely, harmful actions create negative karma, leading to suffering and regret. Understanding the role of karma helps us become more mindful of our actions and the impact they have on ourselves and others. Practical application. Make ethical choices. In your daily life, ask yourself if your actions align with your values. Are you acting with kindness, honesty, and respect for others? Are you contributing to the well-being of those around you? Avoid harmful actions. Be mindful of the impact of your words and actions on others. Practice nonviolence, both physically and emotionally. This includes refraining from gossip, criticism, and harsh words. Reflection. How does living with integrity and ethical conduct affect your relationships with others? Can you see how your actions shape your own happiness and the happiness of those around you? 7. Seek wisdom, the path to enlightenment. The final lesson is the cultivation of wisdom, prajna, which is central to Buddhist teachings. Wisdom is the understanding of the true nature of reality, seeing things as they truly are, without the distortions of desire, ignorance, or attachment. Wisdom allows us to perceive the interconnectedness of all beings and to recognize that our actions have far-reaching consequences. The importance of wisdom. Wisdom is the antidote to ignorance, and it is through wisdom that we can transcend the cycle of suffering, samsara. The Buddha taught that by gaining insight into the nature of the self, the world, and the impermanence of all things, we can free ourselves from the delusions that keep us trapped in suffering. Wisdom is not just intellectual knowledge, but experiential understanding. It comes from direct experience, meditation, and introspection. The more we practice mindfulness and right action, the more wisdom we cultivate. Practical application. Study and reflection. Study the teachings of the Buddha and other wise teachers. Reflect on the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and other Buddhist principles. Contemplate how these teachings apply to your own life. Meditation for insight. Engage in meditation practices that promote insight, vipassana. This practice helps you gain direct experience of the impermanence of all things, the nature of suffering, and the truth of non-self. Reflection. How does gaining wisdom change the way you view the world and your place in it? Can you see the connection between wisdom and the end of suffering? Conclusion. By incorporating these 7 life lessons into our thinking, we open ourselves to a path of transformation. Embracing impermanence, practicing non-attachment, cultivating compassion, living in the present moment, practicing right action, seeking wisdom, and understanding the nature of suffering. All of these teachings provide us with the tools to live a life of peace, joy, and clarity. As we continue our journey, remember that these teachings are not just abstract concepts but practical tools that can be applied in our daily lives. The more we practice, the more we begin to see the truth of these teachings, and the greater our understanding becomes. Ultimately, the goal is not just to change our thinking, but to awaken to the reality of our interconnectedness with all beings, and to live in harmony with the world around us. May these life lessons help you cultivate a mind of wisdom, a heart of compassion, and a life filled with peace.